It is finally time for a full tier 4 tier list. Good alignment, evil alignment, all factions. Let's get it going. Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about everything tier 4 related. So we'll talk about all the tier 4s in the game, how we rate them. Okay, we're going to talk about everything about HP, defense, damage, and we're going to talk about how that stacks up. This has taken a while for me to put together because we've still been working on the damage kind of calculation that I still haven't got 100% down to a T. However, we're in about 2%, so I'm quite happy to now release this video. Just a note before we go through this, it does not take into any commander related bonuses. Well, what that means is using certain commanders with some of these units is more important than just getting the right unit. You can't just pick this on its own. They have to be paired with a good commander that relates to that unit. So it also all about sort of combinations of army and combinations of commander plus army. The average damage that I'm presenting in here isn't perfect. It is for a guide. Okay, it doesn't take into account commander bonuses. It doesn't take into account that the chance of, with Gandalf, there's a 2x chance to attack at the start. Well, that's going to bonus anything attack. Well, it doesn't take Eowyn with all the heals, so HP will be helpful. It doesn't take into these things into account. So it is just a guide, this is, but it's a good starting point to work on. The order relates here to what I believe they add to a faction. At the bottom, I believe they don't do anything. At the top, I believe they may add the most to an army composition and make that team army and that more powerful. Let's get stuck into this. We're going to timestamp all of this though, so you should be able to see all of the different units that you want to talk about. This might be a longer video, good like sort of 25-30 minutes. But we're going to talk about them all in detail and chat about their abilities and stuff like that. So we're going to be talking first of all about the Ravager. I believe this is the biggest, best tier 4 unit. This is for the faction of Mordor. There's only 4 units per command, but you'll see here they score very high on HP command, equal to like the top, and they also hit hard. The reason for that, there's a high chance, 50% chance, they attack all enemies. Now most armies you go against do have multiple units in there, whether it be a melee unit, then 2 rangers, whether it be 2 melee units and a ranger, maybe 3 different cavalry units. The reason for that is people don't like to use one unit because to conscript that 75 command, so endgame PvP, it takes a long time, maybe several days to be able to get that unit back. Where if you spread it out between the 3 units, it means you can recruit them all continually. And endgame PvP, there's a lot of fighting where you're losing units. You need to get them back on the field quick as possible. Having 3, 4, 5 different units that you use across your commanders is a bonus. Therefore, Ravager counters that hard. Okay, smashes everyone in. Really good damage, one of the top ones. And also good defense and good speed. They also have a tankiness ability, so physical damage received minus 15%. All in all, compared to all of these other tier 4s, I believe the Ravager is the best tier 4 unit. What's your favourite? Do you think it's someone else? What do you believe is wrong on here? Who do you think is the best tier 4 unit? Let us know in the comment section below. Note on the Ravager though, and you'll see this across quite a few of these, a counter is using 1 unit. If we use 1 unit on their own, they can't get their multiple attacks off. So then they'll be dealing the minimum damages, around the sort of 24 to 25k mark over the 10 rounds per command. But that's on the sort of lower side of things then, rather than if they're attacking everyone, including your squishies, that will then take your damage down. So counter with 1 unit. Overall, the Ravager is insane, really good unit, and I think I can't see that anyone changing my mind of why I wouldn't pick Ravager as the S tier and best tier 4 unit. Next down, we've got a second evil alignment from Angmar. It is the Fallen. This is, I believe, the best cavalry in the game. They've got a high HP, just like other cavalry units. They've got an alright defense at 55 base, but we get loads and loads of items that can increase cavalry defense. And then they've got a really strong attack. Okay. What I'm assuming here in the max damage is, I believe if you have these as a single or 2 unit army, so just them with rangers or just them with one other cavalry unit, we get to stack their damage really quickly. Okay, so once they take damage, they increase their damage. Once they take damage, they increase their damage output by 6%, up to 10 stacks, so a plus 60% damage. What you can therefore do is, if you've got them as the only frontline unit, they receive those 4 or 5, well, they've received the 10 attacks within the first 3 rounds. If you put commander in there, 2 or 3 units from the opposition, within the 3rd, 4th round, you're at max pretty much. At which point the rest of it, we're having some really good fights. If you pair this on a mix server with someone like Eowyn, who does a massive heal on the 3rd round, well, they get hit, big heal up, and then they got to start smacking people. So I think it's really, really cool to mix Fallen with. I'm hoping we see more of Angmar in this season 2 from people. I really want to see this Fallen unit annihilating people. I'd love to see it. They also get the standard mounted bonus, which is minus 10% damage received. But like I said, notes is I don't believe there's not much weakness of this. They are expensive, I guess, but use alone with rangers. And yeah, don't use them. So if you're going against a commander that counterattacks, or units that come out to counterattack, now these are perfect. Fallen hits, gets hit by a small little counterattack. Ooh, that hurt. But then, yeah, damage stack, damage stack, damage stack. Fallen unit, great unit. I definitely rate them as an A tier. Marchwarden is then on the list, is my 3rd favourite. I believe these are kick-ass. They have got a low HP, however, they have got a decent defend for sort of rangers. A lot of rangers are a little bit lower than this, but they are solid. They also have an ability that increases their defense by 20, so it's more like a 61. Okay, in here. And don't get me wrong, that isn't like a lot of the cavalry units, but it's good. It's defense plus 20, that takes their defense to 61. Not quite sure why it just says can't be stunned and puts the 20 on the defense. That'd be a lot easier, but 61 defense is a solid amount for a ranged unit. Their damage output, though, is insane. They can't be stunned, therefore their damage output is solid all the way through. They haven't got a high range, sort of 59 or 60 damage, which is great, so you're getting substantial hits every time. And they ignore avoidance, so Oathbreakers, goodbye. Overall, Marchwarden is a great unit to add to any army. I wish you could get Marchwarden on anything. I think it'd be great to have that damage to take into any fight. Really, really good unit though. Very, very impressed. And I believe they are really good. They've not got the weaknesses as such as like the Noldor Longshot, where they do it in bursts. I like that they do sustain damage, and they do have a higher defense and a slightly higher HP than the Noldor Longshot. So a really, really nice unit, I believe. And I don't see any weaknesses really in that unit. Lothlorien, great unit to have, and really, really good priced. You want them in every army composition they've got on there. Pair them with someone like Legolas or Gimli, where you protect them with guardians at the front, and you're going to be having a good fight. You're going to be having fun smashing up the opposition. After this, the tiers and the sort of where people sit are very close, some of these middle bits. So Swan Knight is next as my 4th favourite. Swan Knight is on the faction Gondor. They have a really good HP, and they have a solid defense. But like I said before, cavalry units have some great equipment to easily get that defense up, and even get that HP up a little bit as well. And damage, and everything else, and speed. Cav have some great equipment that can go with them. They also have some commanders that really, really sync well with them. Eowyn, there's 2 tier 2s. Eoma and Theoden, I think it is. Both of those on the good side are kick-ass with cavalry. So really, really good. If you take into account commander going with these, then you would probably put all the cavalries up, because they have some really nice syncing. But then again, so do the Rangers. They have some really nice sinking as well. But yeah, so the Cavalry, Swan Knight, really nice HP, really decent defense, really low damage. They're the lowest damaging unit of all tier 4s. You do not want to be relying on these to dish out the damage. However, that means they will combine really well with other units, because for the first 3 rounds they get defense plus 100, so it's a 166, as well as the cav stuff anyway, probably near a 200 defense. And then they take all damage on behalf of normal attacks, which is insane. So they take all the damage for your allies. So pairing with other cavalry, high damaging cavalry, or other or archers, etc. Really, really good, and really, really good to combine as part of your army choice. They are expensive, however, they are definitely a good addition to the Gondor faction, and they are units that you'll be taking into your fight. Really, really good. Like I said, though, with commanders and that, it is great. One thing that is bad, if you don't take enough of them, obviously the counter is if you're putting out high damage to multi-hitting attacks, then Swan Knight will be getting all of that hits. However, with that high defense, should be able to soak up more than the other units would have if they weren't there. Great addition to the army, though. Swan Knight is good, and definitely why we see a lot of action from Gondor, and Gondor dominating a lot of servers. I've seen a lot of it, and Gondor's strong faction. Swan Knight is one of those reasons. Fifth, and my one, I've been using this all season, the Noldor Longshot. Now, if you asked me at the start of the season, I'd have put them last. I hated them. I've not used them for a lot of it. However, their damage output is insane. Lindon with the Noldor Longshot, their damage output is insane. They attack in volleys. So Noldor Longshot have a really weird working where they don't do normal attacks. Now this means on a lot of the commanders, for example Gandalf, where you're selecting Convener, I think it is, or Covenor, where you get a 75% chance to attack twice in the first 2 rounds. Does not work on Noldor Longshot. They do not have normal attacks. Therefore, abilities that impact normal attacks are not impacting Noldor Longshot. So you have to take someone like Haldir that bursts the damage instead, so plus 50, like 40%, 45% from guide in the first 3 rounds, or 4 rounds, 2 rounds, something like that. You've got other things that boost that first few rounds attack. Those kind of things, Noldor Longshot is awesome. What is great about the Noldor Longshot as well is that because you're doing a high amount of damage in this first round, it does reduce the damage you're taking because the other units are injured. So it's really great avoiding damage by using the Noldor Longshot to annihilate armies in the first 1 to 4 rounds. Then your damage output for the rest of the 10 is great. So that'll be reduced. So Noldor Longshot is decent. Their counter, of course, is if there's 1 unit. If you march against Lindon, you want to be taking 1 unit armies, full cavalry, etc. like that. Noldor Longshot will be halving their damage that they deal to you. Halving it. They can't attack. They can only attack 2. They attack 2 enemies on their volleys. 2 enemies on their volleys. And the assumption on the damage here is that there's 2 enemies. Now, if you take away that second enemy and use big commands of 1 unit, Lindon aren't going to be too happy with you, and they're going to see their damage output greatly reduced. Someone like Angmar charging at Lindon, someone like Gondor, Rohan, etc. Yeah, Noldor Longshot aren't going to have a fun time against you. Lindon are going to be struggling. Lindon's one of the most sort of like strongest factions from what I've seen. People choosing Lindon, they've done quite good on a lot of servers. Counter of 1 enemy, 1 unit. There you go. Take that into your next fight with Lindon. We then move on to Iron Warrior. I think I'll get some. This is the biggest unit I think I will get some stick for. This is one that's up for argument and up for debate. I could easily put Iron Warrior 2 or 3 places up, to be fair, and into just low into the A tier. I'm happy for people to argue that. No problem whatsoever. They are cheap, 17,200 total resources in with like the rangers and melee units. They haven't got the highest HP, but they've got a decent amount, 4,200, so above the sort of standard melee and range we've got. It is actually almost in line with Marshal. Marshal's crap though, so there's barely a comparison. but their damage output is low. I would personally like to see their damage output pushed up by about 5 or 10%. 5 or 10%, they'll work themselves 2 places up here, I believe. Melee units, not avoiding cavalry, don't have enough damage output. You always see, I want to see more high damage dealing melee units. Unless you're taking Momokill or Ents or Bjornings, the damage output of melee is just not good enough, and it's really, really a shame to see. You don't see many sort of army composition changes because of the lack of melee. Iron Warrior is the closest thing to that. It has got a very high defense, good HP, and there's great places, great equipment to reduce damage to dwarves. Pair them with Iron Warrior and you are going to be doing a decent fight. They are a mid-tier or mid to high tier, tier 4. They are a good unit and are worth investing in if you are dwarves. Dwarves have done very well on a lot of servers. And against melee units, we have assumed in here, plus 20% damage, and physical damage received, minus 50%. These guys are tanks. They are tanks. You will struggle to kill them. However, they ain't going to be doing much against you either. They aren't going to be doing much against you either. If you take an Iron Warrior, take some Ram Riders, they might take some archers with them, or probably the Dwarven Axe Throwers, full Dwarven builds. The Axe Throwers probably will damage you a bit, but it's not enough. It's not enough. You're not walking in there with Marchwardens. You're not walking in there with a Noldor Longshot. And I don't believe they add the most. I believe they could add more. So yeah, Iron Warrior, feel free, if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments of why you think Iron Warrior deserves a higher place in this tier list. And I might move them up. If you do want access to this, by the way, I'll drop a link to this file in the description below. So have a nosy and see what you think of things in there. We're then on to the next bits, which are the C tiers and D tiers. And again, if you think I've got these wrong, please do leave a comment and why you should argue for your tier 4s maybe of being a higher placement. The War Chariot, it's got the joint highest HP per command, which is awesome. They also have some of the highest defense for the tier 4s. However, all in all, they don't put much out. They don't put much out. And you'll see here, they've got more HP than the Iron Warrior. And they technically do more damage than the Iron Warrior. Yeah, I've put them behind. And I don't know. I think it's the price of them. How much you spend and how much it takes to get them, etc. I don't believe they're hugely amazing. They are good. They're alright units. Would I use them if I was Rhun? Yeah. And will I play Rhun at one point? Probably. And I'll be firing War Chariots at everybody. Now, War Chariots people have been saying they're great. A lot of people have said War Chariots are great. So they should put it higher on the list. But looking at the sort of damage average, what I think they put out, I don't think they add enough. Combining it though with the alchemists, etc. of evil, maybe you will argue the War Chariot does deserve a higher place. With the evil faction, they need some tanky units while the alchemist smashes people in for the first couple of rounds. War Chariot might give you that protection for the first 2 rounds while that damage goes out. With the high HP, good defense, maybe therefore War Chariot does deserve a better place. Just to explain their abilities, rounds 1 and 6, against 2 enemies, they deal 40% physical damage each round to them. 4 rounds. So I think it's rounds 2 to 5 and rounds 7 to 10. You get damaged from 40% of the physical damage. It's not much though. That's the problem. I would actually like to see on War Chariot to bring the HP down very slightly to 5,000 or 4,800 per command. And then I'd push that damage up. Something like that would be really, really interesting for me. I really like that. It really balanced the unit out a little bit more for me. The speed also isn't high enough. It doesn't match the other cavalries. Also, other cavalries will be attacking before your War Chariot in fights against good factions. Against melee units, the damage is plus 20%. So maybe against Lindon and the Lothlorien, you are going to be struggling. But yeah. Rhun for the War Chariot is alright, maybe deserves a better place. Please do argue your case in the comment section below. For now though, I am putting them as C. We then get on to the worst units, to be honest. The Snaga Thrak is okay. It's got a possibility of doing the highest damage. Okay, you obviously need to combine these with different commanders, and that changes all these damage bits. But they do have a large range in damage, so you can tickle the opponent possibly on the min damage, which is extremely upsetting. Pairing them with commanders that do deal max damage chances, though, then you will be getting to a higher portion of this. But it's just a shame if you do those tickles on the first few rounds. That will be upsetting. You end up damaging yourself more than the enemy. They have got a very low defense and a very low HP. They are probably what I was saying before, what I wanted from the Iron Warrior, more damage of a melee unit. Well, the Snaga Thrak is too much on the squishy side. They're too much on the squishy side. What is good, though, is they're unaffected by madness. So they ain't going to be charging at your own. And I'm glad they put that on there. I'm glad they've not going to be smacking your own units. Smack your own units and get a charge up. Smack them again. Oh my god, I had to cry. So yeah, decent unit. But again, compared to the other tier 4s, I do think this is on the lower end, which is why they're in the bottom of tier C. They're close to tier D, though. Do you know what? We'll update it now. Hate me as much as you want. I'm going as tier D on the Snaga Thrak. You can hate me. You can challenge me. Absolutely no problem in the comment section. But yeah, for me, they need a bit more HP. They need a bit more defense. The lowest defense on here are they, apart from the Noldor Longshot. How you can be comparing a big snaky guy that can move quite easily and attack versus a Noldor Longshot that's got a bow in his hand. They deserve more defense in my eyes. We then get on to the worst two, though. These are the ones that we want to talk about. Marshal. When I did this tier list, when I looked at the stats and looked at the comparison and looked at the damage output, etc., I didn't believe it. Rohan, I felt like, I was like, no, I want to be Rohan next season. I asked, therefore, some of the players what they thought of their tier 4 unit, and the feedback was, they're shite. They don't like them. They're not good. Their damage output, when you read their ability of plus 56% damage, which scales to about 75% when you put their speed on there, which is really good, yeah? Once you put that in, but it's only for the first round, after that it diminishes very quickly. But if you put that against their damage range of 34 to 40, it isn't putting enough out. It's like they've built this unit with a lower HP and a lower defense to take into account, oh yeah, we're going to be smacking people hard with this cavalry unit. They don't smack hard. They do not smack hard. They tickle. They tickle. Yet they're not as tanky, they're not as good in defense as the other tier 4 units. We're comparing against tier 4s here. Comparing to other cavalry you have access to, yes, probably better. However, comparing to your Swan Knight or your Fallen, or even your War Chariot, it ain't touching it. On top of that, they still cost you 26,000. It is too much. This unit is the biggest one that needs a revamp in my eyes, completely out of sync with the rest of the tier 4s, and does need a rework. That damage needs to go up. I'd put another 20% on that damage, and then it'll be interesting to see that. Combining this, though, with the commanders that really specialise in cavalry, I completely get that this unit becomes more powerful. Looking at the tier 4 unit on its own, though, not rated by me. Very expensive. You can't be building these all day. And yeah, it's they go down a bit too quickly for my liking. Last but not least, well, actually in this case, last and the least, is Ranger of the North for Arnor. Why do I put these at the bottom of the list? I don't believe they do anything. I don't believe they add to the mix, really. They become another ranged unit. Your ranged unit is one of your damaging units. If you're not going commander damage, you're going for a heal build, which point you want to take some rangers for your damage output. The Ranger of the North doesn't do that for you. It doesn't do that for you. It doesn't allow you to use them as a damaging unit. When you take an army composition with a Ranger of the North, you're taking a tank unit, your frontline melee, fine. You're taking a Ranger of the North, but then you're also taking another Ranger to put damage out. And then what does the Ranger of the North do? Just protect that unit. It absorbs all attacks against other ally ranged units, which I don't see being effective enough. I don't want to take another ranged unit. I don't want to take more damaging units. Yeah, I can take some Bow Knights with me, that's great and everything. However, Bow Knights have got really good HP and defense anyway. So I don't need you protecting them. Why do I want to do that with my tier 4s when actually I should probably want the Bow Knight to protect my bloody Ranger of the Norths. So the unit doesn't work for me. The damage output isn't enough. The HP is weak. The defense is weak in the grand scheme of things, and yet it goes to 69. With the ability, but it is just not enough compared to Noldor Longshot, compared to the Marchwarden. Ranger of the North does not do it justice. It does not add to the army enough. You want them to be adding to your army. You want them to be doing something special. Ranger of the North, I don't believe, adds enough. It hasn't got a weakness, but it's also got no strength. So tier 4 tier list, Ranger of the North is at the bottom of that. Did you enjoy this video? If you did, do please hit that like and subscribe. If you want to challenge anything I'm saying here, do leave a comment. What do you think I got wrong on this? This is and again, I've left this document in the description so you can go and grab it yourselves, have a look at it. But yeah, this is my tier 4 tier list. If you want to see the same thing on all tier 3 units, give me a shout. I'll be able to do the good ones first and then I'll do evil. But let me know and I'll tell you what I think about other tier 3 units and tier 4 units, etc, etc. But catch you next time.